Hi, I'm Sian from Pooka and Co. We're the digital agency that helps charities, third and public sector organisations and not-for-profits do more good online. Today I'm joined by Mads, our CiviCRM and data privacy specialist, and we're going to talk about all things CiviCRM, what it is, how it can help organisations like yours, from everything from events and memberships to fundraising and comms. Grab a cuppa and dive in. Would you like to tell our viewers a little bit about who you are and what you do for Pooka?
My name is Mads Mitchell. I work with Pooka and Pooka clients to help them with all of their CiviCRM related needs, really. That's helping identify things that CiviCRM can help them with, and then helping them implement that in their CiviCRM implementation as well. I also support clients with data privacy issues. That's auditing what's in place already and helping them map where their data is, what's going on, and helping them achieve compliance through that as well.
What really attracted you to want to work with charities and good causes?
So I have 10 years of experience working within a charity, and also several years of experience on a voluntary basis working with charities to help them with digital projects that they're finding challenging or they don't have the expertise with. So working with Pooka to help charities, I understand the issues that they're facing, and I know how overwhelming that can be for staff in the charity, because so often things are tacked onto an existing job role, and that can be really difficult. Having to juggle those roles, but also feeling like you don't have the confidence. Like it's not a problem. That's why we're here.
And actually, that leads me on to a really good point. I think CiviCRM or just CRMs in general can sometimes sound a bit intimidating to the uninitiated. And, like you're saying, there's so many different jobs that you're trying to juggle on your day to day. How could you describe what CiviCRM is?
Sort of elevator pitch for CiviCRM is difficult because, it depends who you're in the elevator with. If you are a membership organisation, then, it's your membership database, it's your membership system. If you are a service provider, you've got service users, and that's the sort of charity or non-profit that you are, it's the core functionality of that as well. It will manage all of your cases and your service users' progress through your organisation. Ultimately, I would say that it's a huge suite of tools that just takes care of business. It sits behind your website and it provides functionality for taking donations, gift aid declarations, memberships, and event management and marketing and all of these different things. It's huge. So I'm sorry, the elevator has long since reached its floor.
But that sounds incredible. Like that it can combine so many different things into the one platform. That would make an individual's job so much easier day to day. So what do you think then are some of the misunderstandings that people have about what a CRM can do in general?
Sometimes people think or get the sense that they should have a CRM. I think that's an issue. They have this push that, well, that's what everyone's got, so we need to go and get one. They think that's the end goal, to have a CRM. Whereas actually it's all of the gains that you get from proper implementation of that and understanding what your actual needs are. Understand what the CRM brings to the organisation and the purpose of it, so that you can make the most of what you have.
And the data that you have and the people that you're managing along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's break it down then. What is a contact record in CiviCRM? And is it more than just a name and a number?
Pretty much the backbone of CiviCRM, because CiviCRM exists to kind of manage the interactions that contacts have with your organisation. So, but where you have a contact record, and we talk about contacts in CiviCRM, because so often a CRM is referred to as, say, a customer relationship management system. It's much more non-profit and charity focused, so it's a different language, because CiviCRM is about non-profits. That's who it's designed and supported by. With that in mind, you see your contact record, and that can be any number of different types of people. We're talking about, how many different stakeholders are there for your organisation?
Yeah.
Trustees, donors, volunteers, members of staff, service users, supporters, email list subscribers, and then everyone else in between, because every organisation is different. So if your contact record, it's not just their phone number, it's every single interaction that they've had with your organisation. Not only that, but because of the functionality that CiviCRM provides, we're not drawing all of that from lots of different sources. It's about automating all of these different processes and being able to see them, being able to see, who's this person. And we don't just see that, they were at an event last week. We see that they're at an event the week before as well, and the week before that. And they gave us 200 quid the week before that. And actually, they used to be on our mailing list, but they're not anymore. They've unsubscribed to that. We see everything. Amazing. And that's really, really powerful.
Especially for charities and third sector non-profits that, like you say, have a diversity of different types of people they engage with. And it sounds to me like a contact entry on CiviCRM tells more of a story about a person than just what their name is and what their phone number is.
Because that's what we want to do. We want to reach people, and we want to know the impact that we're having.
So you mentioned events. Does CiviCRM make life easier for comms people or event managers than, say, tools like Eventbrite or a spreadsheet?
Yeah, if you're using Eventbrite or just a spreadsheet, there's nothing wrong with that if that fits your needs. This CiviCRM, the beauty of that is that, if all of the people in your team have access to CiviCRM, everyone has access to that data. We're not talking about having to log into a system and export things and then analyze that and think, right, well, so-and-so paid. And let's say you've got a fundraising dinner and you're selling individual tickets and you're selling groups of tickets. You can buy a seat or you can buy a table.
Yeah.
You can say, if you're buying a table, that's 6 people, 8 people. You're buying a seat, that's 1 person. And you make sure that you know what your max capacity is for that event, and it's going to deduct that as it should, So you do have really fine control over quite intricate structures, just depending on what you need to do. For example, if you want to offer a membership discount to your event, if CiviCRM knows who you are, it can apply that automatically. It can say, well, actually, this is a member-only event, so only our members can even access and sign up for this. We don't need to be sitting and checking all of those things. And it might say, well, actually, we do know who you are, and you're fortunate enough to be under a certain age, and you can get an age-based discount, or even you're in a certain location, or
Wow.
Or just you've got the discount code. It offers so many different things because it knows who you are.
Yeah. And that to me sounds like the real power behind it is that full integration of this is who you are and then everything else that relates to you as an individual within that experience.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's so much easier than having to do that manually.
And anything we can do to save time and be more efficient and make sure that everything is seamless, that seems like a bonus to me. So you mentioned memberships there. So how does CiviCRM handle their memberships? And is that different from like a mailing list?
A membership in CiviCRM, it's a really, really powerful feature of CiviCRM. So you can define the memberships that to fit what your organisation is offering. For many organisations, actually, a membership is it's a donation. So if those memberships are eligible for gift aid, then you can collect your gift aid declarations. You can submit your gift aid claims directly to HMRC, which is a very, very useful tool. It will handle all of the paperwork there for you straight out of CiviCRM with a click of a button. That's also part of the power of the donations element of CiviCRM as well. But in terms of membership, we've got membership renewal notifications and payment reminders and things like that too.
It sounds quite dynamic then in the way that it can manage all this data effectively.
Yeah, so my experience with CiviCRM is really based around the strength of the membership element of CiviCRM. So 10 years of experience working in an organization with, up to 19,000 members at any given point, with annual renewals, and it's a very small team. And without CiviCRM, we couldn't do it.
That really does bring you on, again, naturally to the campaigning and fundraising tools. Is that right, that CiviCRM can do obviously more of the memberships? You mentioned donations as well.
So let's take a step back from there.
Yep.
If you're using CiviCRM, and one of the things that Pooka is really, really great at, very skilled developers that work with WordPress. So we will integrate WordPress websites with CiviCRM, and that means that in your WordPress website, you can have these wonderful contribution pages that have been created and managed, and they collect all of the payments that people are making to you straight into your database, straight into CiviCRM. So when we're talking about donations, I mean, whether it's a specific appeal, whether it's a campaign contribution with a target, to track the response to your ask, we can see where you're getting traction with your comms. So if you're a comms manager, if you're a fundraiser, this is...
That's invaluable data.
Absolutely.
And information.
And so often, these roles they just overlap so much, depending on the organization that you're in as well.
Yeah.
You've got several hats on at any given time. So the fact that all of the data is there, and also we're working remotely a lot of the time.
Yep.
It can be quite difficult to get together. There's quite a few organizations that don't really have a
base.
They don't have a physical location. So we all have one secure point that we can go and look at this data together and just work out what's going well.
Yeah.
And one of the really useful tools in CiviCRM, and I swear I'm not going to put my data protection hat on for too long here, because you do need to be aware of some of the privacy implications of some of these tools. For example, you create your lovely dynamic responsive email template that looks great on all of your different devices. Your drag and drop editor, the Mosaico editor, is inbuilt in CiviCRM, which is great, because not everybody is a designer. Not everybody is.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So that's a really great tool. You can say, here's version 1, and we've used this language.
Yeah.
And here's version 2, and we've used this language. So what you can do is you can say, let's send this version to 10% of our mailing list, and this version to 10% of our mailing list. And then we'll just check after a little while and see where we've got the traction. And that's why it's important to make sure that you're transparent about, how you're using these technologies before you start using them, because you can track that, how many people have opened them, how many people have clicked on some of the links in them. So when they're your fundraising links, you can see they didn't like the wording here, or they didn't like that image, or whatever else. And then you can say, well, this one has performed better than this one. And so the remaining 80% of your mailing list
can get the one
that has been slightly more optimized.
And that's really powerful for fundraising and comms, because that's what it comes down to, is making sure you've got the communications that are going out that are going to engage and turn people into advocates, supporters, donors, volunteers.
I mean, it feels like a buzzword to say, making data-driven decisions, but this is what it means. It can feel intimidating. We had digital transformation, and everyone went, well, what's that really mean? And now we have data-driven decision-making. What's that mean? Well, this is it, and it couldn't be easier, to be honest.
And those decisions are only as good as the data you collect. So if you've got a single point that is able to look at all of the data points, then it's going to make for better and more informed decision making down the line.
Absolutely.
Yeah. These sound like all the really exciting features of what CiviCRM can do. But of course, you need to get CiviCRM first. So what does a kind of good implementation plan look like? And And what are some of the possible pitfalls that you've come across maybe when implementing CiviCRM for a client?
This is an interesting question, because one of the real strengths of working with people who speak charity as well as speaking tech is that, where you do have these people in roles who have just been tasked with, well, go get us a CRM, or go and do this for us. If you don't know where to start, it can be intimidating, and you can feel like what you need to be saying to a developer is, this is exactly what I want you to deliver. But it's not really about that. It's about those conversations and saying, well, what's your organization do, and what are you doing at the moment? And you don't need to have the answer when you come to Pooka, because Pooka can help you find the answer. And this is very different to Pooka will tell you what it is that you need. What Pooka is really great at is speaking to you and understanding how to implement something that is going to do what you need it to do, but also last. CiviCRM works best when you make full use of the core features as far as you can. CiviCRM is really customizable, really configurable. And also there's a whole range of extensions that you can install to give you extra functionality.
And of course, you working with many clients with all slightly different, but then maybe similar needs, are going to know which of these integrations are, like say, the more sustainable options, or the ones that give the full gambit of what your client needs. As opposed to going cold into looking at, say, 4 or 5 different CRM systems and thinking, do I like the look of this? As opposed to, what's the functionality of it going to be for the organization? Say you're a comms manager now listening to this and thinking, this sounds amazing, right? But a little scary. It's a lot, right? What would you say, or what do you say to people to kind of reassure them about the implementation process? Like, where should they start first?
Start with not what CiviCRM functionality you should be using. I think that's the wrong focus. I mean, it's good to see what the possibilities are, but I think thinking about your own work and where the sticking points are, the things that I just wish that that this bit is always a little bit too difficult, or this bit is just a little bit frustrating, and I wish I had this insight or something else. There are so many users of CiviCRM that have a lot to say about the impact that it's had on the work that they do. Look at the CiviCRM website, look at the Pooka website. You'll see case studies and impact that CiviCRM has had, and the work that Pooka's done with them is had on the way that they work. And that's kind of why we're here, because you're not coming into this cold. You've got access to a lot of experience working in the third sector, and also working with a range of clients and understanding their experience too, and helping them succeed in what they need to do.
So it sounds like the ideal scenario would be to sit down and go, I would really like it if I could understand at a single glance who is doing what within my membership, or who hasn't paid their membership, or how many people do I have on my mailing list, and who of those are coming to events, and then having a fully integrated, seamless link between website and CRM would just make my life infinitely easier. It's those things, the infinitely easier bit to your day to day.
I think the biggest light that I see behind people's eyes is usually when there's that common understanding of just how busy people are, and just how challenging it can be even to make the smallest change to the way that they work. I mean, it feels, even when you know that something isn't working, even when you know that something is in inverted commas, the wrong way to be doing something, because they know it's tedious and onerous, and it takes ages to check and double check. Sometimes you just can't take time to step back and say, well, what is the right way to do this? And it's just understanding that sometimes, I think, is really, really useful for people, because I've been there, and when you don't have the confidence, when you're working on your own, trying to find the right answer, that can be really, really difficult because you can't risk not doing the work because it takes so long to do it. There's so many factors here.
And let's face it, that's what we want when we show up to our desk every day, is confidence in the tools that we're using, the outcomes that we need to get through to the end of the day.
And then being able to see what's possible on the other side of that, because then you have your data, you have your reports, you have what comes next. Now that I've got the time to think, I've got that off my desk, what else can we do?
Yeah.
There's loads of functionality in CiviCRM, and you don't need to use all of it. You don't need to use all of it immediately. Some of it you might never look at all, but it's there and it's a process.
From what I've heard so far is that there are so many different features within CiviCRM that you can use them all. You can use snippets of them. You could start with some and then end up using different ones down the line. So my question now is, how easily customizable is CiviCRM?
The thing with CiviCRM is that it is built and designed for nonprofits. So there are things that you'll want to customize because they are specific to your organization. Those moving parts, I think you'll find are kind of roughly in the right place. Where it really comes into its own is things like the relationships between those contacts, the different types of data that you might want to collect for the different types of contact record as well. So we can decide whether we collect information, what sort of information that we're actually asking for.
That's interesting.
And then create templates so that if we're doing this over and over again, your team doesn't need to think about this every single time. It takes that energy away. You don't need to be thinking quite so much just to create an event. You're already halfway there by the time you start. And you decide that as an organization.
Again, it's that flexibility to be able to tailor it to what you need. And like you say, you don't need to collect all forms of information for every individual that's coming to the organization at different touch points.
Absolutely.
Maybe we go a little bit behind the scenes now. What does it kind of look like when you're importing data? Because, of course, a CRM system, whether it's CiviCRM or something else, is kind of only as good as the data, I guess, it starts with as well. So what does that kind of look like? What are you looking for when you're importing data into CiviCRM?
Yeah, this kind of goes back to the idea of customization and what your organization does and the data that you already have. I mean, this isn't going to be a process that starts with an organization. You'll have been operating in some form or another, even if it's a week, but you have some idea of what it is that you need to do. So it's making sure that you can navigate CiviCRM and see what it is that you expect to see. And so you understand the different moving parts there. If we have a membership, what's that allow us to do? And it's walking through that process and making sure that the actual configuration of CiviCRM is right and supports the workflow and the tasks that your organization really needs to do. And once that's right, a data import it's a technical thing, making sure that it's the correct sort of data that's being imported into a field. To get slightly technical, you've got a drop down in your contact record, and there are 3 possible options. If you try and import something that's not one of those options, it's going to say, what are you doing? But we know that. So what we could do is help create just a basic guide for doing that. So if the client wants to be importing data further on down the line, that's what we're here for, really, helping people to do these things that you don't necessarily do every day. That's why it's good to have people who work with this all the time, because then you can get it right. And also we understand what's happening under the hood.
Yeah.
You get that right.
Even from my own experience, I know that the way people collect data on a spreadsheet prior, say, to having any form of CRM system, we all have our own individual approaches to what works for us when we look at that. And so if you're importing several different spreadsheets that maybe are spanning 10 years, have been created by 5 different people, they're all going to look at different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes can be one of the bigger hurdles, right, to getting data into a new system.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose what I'm hearing is like the advantage of working with, with Pooka and yourself would be that you could look at ways in which to sort of integrate that data in a more realistic, practical way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, when we're talking about 5 different spreadsheets all recorded in 5 different ways, I mean, nobody is just making that up off the top of their heads. I'm just going to start collecting this data. There is a reason that the people in your organization are using that, and it's finding and agreeing the one true way. And this is another data protection hat going on moment, but one of the principles of UK GDPR is, we need things to be accurate. It's data accuracy, but also data minimization, data retention, all of these different things that when you've got lots of different people, lots of different spreadsheets, well, what if the same person is on all of those spreadsheets and one of those people has been told that this phone number's changed, but the other people haven't? I mean, this is your source of truth. And that's why CiviCRM is amazing, because we don't have to worry about that. You update it in one place and everyone has access to that. And the other thing is, when someone shouldn't have access to that anymore, they don't.
And that gives you a real sense of protection of
Absolutely.
That data.
Yeah.
Is there a way in which you can manage CiviCRM beyond using a computer? Is there a mobile app or anything like that? So when you're out on the move and you need to make a change, could you do that?
Yeah. So one of the really interesting developments recently is the rise of Civi Mobile. So whether you're using that for event registrations and event checking people in, if you're using case management sort of tools within CiviCRM as well, if you are visiting service users or anything like that, so many different uses. You can update that, you can view notes, you can take notes, you can assign activities, and it's a real-time link into what's on your laptop.
Yeah, without having to cart it around everywhere with you. That really speaks to me. Having anything on my phone is a huge advantage in today's world. I'm going to actually ask you a question about data privacy.
Great.
So what kind of role does CiviCRM play in making it easier or more robust?
There are lots of things that CiviCRM helps with. Someone who a data protection officer, and also, I'm the data privacy specialist at Pooka, supporting clients with this sort of thing. Compliance looks different for every organization, and that's really down to things like, really it's down to the understanding within the organization and your documentation and your, just being able to provide the evidence that you've thought these things through and really having set that all out. And one of the key things there is, especially increasingly in a digital world, where is the personal information that you're processing within your organization? Where is it? And the answer is it's all over the place. And that's okay, but that's a lot of work to keep track of. It's not that CiviCRM will completely remove that obligation. You most likely will be using Stripe or PayPal or another organization, but it just keeps so much data in one place. So that's one element of it. You also have one set of credentials for accessing that information. It's all in one place. And that means that your staff, your volunteers, your trustees, whoever else is accessing CiviCRM, you're able to restrict access and grant access to certain types of data. You can, configure all of that in CiviCRM. You should really only have access to things that you need, the data that you need to have access to. And Civi really, really makes that easy, or at least gives you an easy way into thinking about it. If that's something that you've you know that you need to do, but you haven't done it yet because it just feels too difficult. I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there, and I still feel like I'm there quite often, to be honest. It's a big, ever-changing landscape.
Yes.
And every time your organization kind of shifts slightly to do something new, and you need to be reviewing these things anyway. But CiviCRM keeps it in one place and just simplifies what is not very simple process.
Moving on now from data, privacy. For someone who is starting to explore CRM systems for their organization now, are there any other questions that people should be thinking about as they start in their search for a CiviCRM or CRM system?
So this is something that I've spoken to a lot of charities about in the voluntary work that I do, have been doing for several years. So often it is, how do we do getting a CRM? And the answer is always, I can't tell you that. There are lots and lots of options, but making the correct decision depends on what you need and what your resources are, the reason that you want CRM as well.
So it's knowing what you want to achieve, I guess, as to whether or not a CRM system can do that for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And not being told, well, you need a CRM because it will do this for you. And then you start panicking.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Don't build your organization around your CRM. Build the CRM around your organization.
Entirely.
Yeah. So at Pooka, you're not just sort of setting up CiviCRM for people, are you? There's a degree of training and support. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, I think that's where most of the value comes in, really, because I mean, it's a tool that you don't just have it and then it sits nicely on a shelf. It's the center of your operation. If if you spent all of this time, all of this energy in getting this thing to be right and to be that hub for all of your staff to be using, volunteers to be using, everybody else to be using, well, people move on. People say, well, actually, could it do this as well? Actually, I'm not quite sure about that. And actually, you just remind me.
Is having a human at the end of an email or a phone to actually ask those questions and get that feedback. And that's so valuable in today's world.
It is. And again, it's the things that you don't do very often. And knowing that if you send an email to Pooka, someone's going to say, oh, you do that? An extension of the team, really.
We're embedded through your CiviCRM. Yeah. So if someone's sitting on the fence about whether or not they need a CiviCRM, although I can't imagine they could possibly be after listening to this conversation, and they're just unsure maybe of where to start, or what would you say to them?
One thing they could do is come along to our Scottish meetup, CiviCRM meetup, which had a good turnout. We had people who were new users, people who were Pooka clients, people that weren't, had other digital agencies as well who work with CiviCRM. Really, really good turnout, and we're hoping to see the same again and just be able to showcase the success stories of CiviCRM. So that's one route. You can come along and talk to us about it there, or speak to Pooka directly. Visit the website and have a look at some of the case studies and have a look at CiviCRM in practice, I suppose. Organizations really, really vary, obviously. That's why CiviCRM is so customizable, configurable. But there are commonalities between charities, between non-profit organizations. And if you seeing another organization do something that you struggle with and taking the pain out of that, maybe that's the thing that will say, actually, maybe that's a good starting point.
Absolutely. And of course, they can always drop an email. You can set up a call, have a chat with them about what it is that they might get out of the CiviCRM.
Absolutely.
Sounds good to me.
We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you for watching, and a huge thanks to Mads for sharing their wisdom. If CiviCRM sounds like something that your organization could benefit from, or you're just curious and want to chat through the possibilities, we'd love to hear from you. At Pooka, we like to tailor every implementation to your team, your goals, and your budget. No jargon, no pressure, just human-first digital solutions.